There are some glaring shortcomings in the world of Christian art, and you know that, and I know that, and we all know that. There's almost no one that doesn't know that. This isn't the first video made about this topic. It's probably not even the first video you've watched about this topic. It's gotten to the point where every up-and-coming artist in the Christian space over the last 4 or 5 years has made at least one, if not 20 or 30 pieces of content addressing the fact that contemporary Christian music has kind of just gotten stale and old. The lyrics feel shallow, it feels hollow, it's only targeted at a very narrow demographic of people. And most of those up-and-coming artists, which I applaud the attempt, try to be the solution to that. And some are successful, but others, a lot of others, it seems like they never really resolve the issue. They just repackage the same product in a new sound or with a new image. It feels like the same shallow lyrics, except it just sounds like Noah Kahan and the Lumineers did it, or Lil Baby delivered it. I'm mostly curious in understanding what is the actual cause of this issue. If it's something that all of us know that there's a problem, all of us know that it should be addressed, needs to be addressed, and yet it feels just as difficult as it ever was to find artists writing about these topics at a very high level. And I don't think that Christians are the only ones who deal with this issue. I mean, time and time again over the last 7 or 8 years, we've seen people attempt to cram political messages or ideologies into their music, mostly handled very awkwardly. Not that there hasn't been great art made about political ideas or the state of affairs in the world, but just trying to cram a monologue about women's rights into your attempt at making a Sabrina Carpenter song, it's not the way to go about it. And we know it's not the way to go about it. That's the thing. We're very aware when other people do that and it comes off weird and it comes off phony. And yet, time and time again, we do the same thing but just with Jesus. And there are select artists that every single time top tens are mentioned and the best is mentioned, these people's names are floating around in the conversation. And I don't think it's a coincidence that those people are the ones executing the discussion of those topics at the highest level, because we want people to talk about it. We want to hear about it. We want people to think deeply about it and then go write about it. I don't think it's as easy as sitting down and just deciding that you're going to write about some hot button issue. I mean, every time that Kendrick disappears for 4 years to make an album, I don't think he spends 4 years making the album. I think he spends 3 years living his life, observing the world, contemplating and wrestling with new truths that he's dealing with, growing as a person, and then takes all of that and spends 1 year writing and putting together the album. And I don't want to belittle the importance or nuance of politics and social change and whatnot, but it's hard to not imagine that those things, as important as they can be, pale in comparison to trying to talk about God and spirituality. Those who we've looked at who have seemed to be the closest to really knowing God and having a grasp and writing these unbelievable books are people that if you ask them, they would say at the end of their life that they haven't even scratched the surface. They've barely even begun. They just got a taste of the truth that sits there. And you're gonna just rap about it over 808s? That's not, and not to belittle that, it's just not an easy thing to do. I don't think it should be treated as if it's an easy thing to do. I don't think it's a surprise that so many artists have had their greatest work, their greatest albums, their greatest songs come after a really bad breakup. A lot of times their first really bad breakup. I think it's due to the fact that you don't just know about a breakup, or have new facts about a breakup, or a newfound opinion on the process of going through a breakup. Like, you know it. That's your life. When you get thrown into that, that is your life. That is your everything. You spend hours thinking about it, hours crying about it, hours suppressing your thoughts about it. Like, you know exactly what it feels like when you say your last goodbye, and when you have to walk away, and the first moment of silence when you're left alone to yourself, and 6 months down the line when you come across an old photo or a thing that you used to do together, and all of a sudden the flood of memories come back. Like, you've just lived that for the last half a year, or however long it takes to kind of get through that. So when you go to sit down to write, it's like, what else are you going to write about? That's just all you've known. That's all you've done. That's all you've thought on. So, like, it's just going to pour forth from you, and you have all of these nuanced ideas and takes and thoughts and opinions and feelings and emotions that you have just experienced day in, day out, whether you want to or not. So it's not a surprise that people's best writing has come out after a moment like that. And I'm not saying that if you're a Christian and you want to write music, I'm mostly talking about music at the moment. I know there's issues with so many other aspects of Christian art that I would love to get into at some point, but music is my focus, and that's probably the thing I spend the most amount of time thinking about. Battery died. Now, I'm not saying that every Christian artist should go to seminary before they decide to start writing music. Please don't go into $80,000 of debt to become a Christian rapper. But I think that where you are on the path and in your journey should 100% dictate what you write about and how you write about it. I mean, thankfully we have great examples to look to, and I think the greatest and most well-known is obviously David. I mean, my boy has cooked up some of the greatest works of all time. But it wasn't like one day he just sat down and decided, you know what, I'm going to start writing some poems about God, and then just threw together Psalm 23. Like, that doesn't come overnight. That comes after years of wrestling with God day in and day out. And how many nights did he spend out in the field tending the sheep, staring at the stars, pondering God, contemplating the way, meditating on the scriptures before he ever wrote any of the stuff that we now like know and love? How many of his gut-wrenching psalms that we all quote to ourselves when life is getting a bit choppy was written from inside of a cave when he was hiding from one of the many people hunting him down, trying to kill him? Like, you don't write about the valley of the shadow of death until you've been in the valley of the shadow of death a couple times, probably. Kings trying to kill you, and nations coming against you, and your own family trying to murder you. Then when you say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, that hits with a bit more weight to it. And I don't want to be only negative, because I think there are artists that are doing this and doing it at a very high level. I mean, there are projects that stick out to me as like quintessential when it comes to capturing this idea. Like The Arrow by Andy Mineo, Camp Lukewarm by Montel Fish, Good Religion by the Dream Junkies. These are 3 albums where they spent years living these experiences and wrestling with these truths and writing about them and rewriting about them before they ever actually hit the record. That's what it sounds like. I could be wrong. They could have just woke up one day and whipped it together, but I really don't think you get there without time spent, without really knowing it on an intimate level. From the contents of the heart, the mouth speaks, and I think that that is true about your writing. There is a big difference between regurgitating a truth that someone else told you and saying the same truth but from the perspective of someone who really knows it. And that the difference between that and that is years of living and years of walking with it and meditating on it and wrestling over it before it's yours, before that truth is yours, you know? And from even my own personal experience, the last few years, all of my best songs have been from the perspective of someone knowing that there is a better way to live and a better path to be on, but consistently struggling to stay on that path or even get on that path to begin with. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but 7 or 8 years of my life was spent in that place, living that way of life. Most of my experiences that I've had with God ever have been from that perspective and that point of view. So it makes sense that when I sit down to write, that's what I write about. And I've only really been consistent about walking according to the way, or getting to know God intimately and falling in love with Him for the past 3 years. And even that, I mean, it's been 3 full years of that. And finally, the thoughts and feelings and truths that I've been learning and wrestling with are beginning to spill over into my writing. And it wasn't like I just decided one day that I was going to write about it. I've been wanting to write about it for a while. It just hasn't happened. And there are other topics that I really want to talk on and I really want to write about and create things around. And I can't. And I know that I've got hours, days, years of prayer and meditation and contemplation and practice and trying and failing and trying and failing again and again before I have anything of substance that I can actually use and put into words and put into music. You know, because then I got to make it catchy. Not only do I have to know it, but you got to make it sound catchy and you got to make it rhyme. Bro, good luck. Good luck, because you're going to need that. Shut up. I want to retry this part. Give me my monster. I'm going to get it right. I promise. That's backwards.